once upon a various time, pretty much anything was used as money. It just had to be portable, and later it could have been exchanged for real value like food, clothing, and shelter. Things like shells, cocoa beans, pretty stones, even feathers were used as money. Gold and silver were very easy and attractive to work with, so goldsmiths made trade much easier by casting coins out of them. Standardized unit of these metals is weighted in purity with certified. As time passed by, people found out that gold was heavy and very hard to transport. That's when they came up with paper money, which was backed by the gold reserves. This system, which was known as the gold standard, and later on as a Bretton Woods system, lasted for about 100 or so years. On August 15, 1971, due to the Great Depression, President Nixon of the United States of America ended the Bretton Woods system, and soon the rest of the world followed.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
The official currency of Pakistan is rupee. To trace the origin of the word rupee, one has to drive about 50 miles from the Islamabad and visit the Taxila Museum. It has in its possession the original rupee coin, which is displayed for the public viewing. The word rupee is found in the Sanskrit word rupa or rupiakam, which means coins of silver. The word rupiah, which was used to denote the coin introduced by Sher Shah Suri in 1540 CE. Pakistani rupee was first put into circulation after the country became independent from the British rule in 1947. For the first few months of independence, Pakistan used Indian notes with Pakistan stamped on them. New notes were issued in 1948. Like the Indian rupee, it was usually divided into 16 annas. In January 1, 1961, the rupee was changed to subdivided into 100 pice, renamed paise or paisa in singular form. In 1994, Pakistan ceased production of all the paise, and in 1998 it introduced 2 and 5 rupee coins, which are still in production today. Have you ever wondered who is responsible for printing all the money in Pakistan? Well, the answer is very simple. The State Bank of Pakistan is responsible for putting out all the money in Pakistan. The primary function of the State Bank includes issuing of notes, regulation of financial system. It is also a banker to the government, and it is also the only entity which conducts the monetary policy in Pakistan. State Bank is also responsible for issuing bonds, which is a great way for a government to get money which it can invest in the economy for a future profit.
And the Americans are very famous for coining different terms. They have junk bonds, they have corporate bonds, they have mutual bonds. So I think the interest rates, as they just give like $90 billion to banks like Bank of America, to Citibank, to JP Morgan, to Goldman Sachs, and they return that money along the interest. So the interest that the banks earned over a period of time, like let's say 1 year, so they paid back the principal amount and the interest. So the banks, whatever they're earning through trading, through the corporate banking, they are returning back to the Fed along with the interest. So that's where the money is coming from.
Exchange rate. The Pakistani rupee spot exchange rate specifies how much money one currency, the US dollar, is currently worth in terms of the other, the Pakistani rupee. In the years between 1995 and 2008, the currency of Pakistan devalued almost 200% against the dollar. This devaluation has lowered the buying power of Pakistan. Interest rate. In Pakistan, interest rate decisions are taken by the State Bank of Pakistan. Pakistan benchmark interest rate stands at 12.50% as of right now. Economic growth is the increase in value of goods and services produced by economy. Pakistan gross domestic product expanded 2% over the last year. The Pakistani gross domestic product is worth $168 billion according to the World Bank. Inflation. The word inflation refers to general rise in prices. The inflation rate in Pakistan was 13.04% in March of 2010. Trade deficit. Pakistan reported current account deficit equivalent to about 1,484 million US dollars in December 2009. Unemployment. The unemployment rate in Pakistan was 5.20% in December of 2008. Government budget. Pakistan had government budget surplus in 2008 equivalent to about 4.40% of the GDP. Balance of trade. Pakistan reported trade deficit of $964 million in February 2010. Pakistan exports were 1,539 million US dollars, while imports were 2,504 million US dollars.
If you look at the macroeconomic analysis, there are a lot of factors, especially the lower GDP growth, plus you are politically unstable, you don't have any solid economic indicators that have actually contributed to the lowering of your currency, and your currency has depreciated 40% over the period of 3 years' time. Interest rates went up because inflation rate was very high. So in order to curb the inflation rate, we had to raise our interest rate. But right now, I see the interest rate to remain flat for the next 3 quarters. Q4 2010, we will see the rate between 11.5 and 12%. Yes, to some extent, because as an investor, if I am coming into your country, I have to look at the discount rate. If you have very high discount rate, it sends a negative signal to the international investors, because when you have higher discount rate, you have depreciating currencies, you have lower GDP growth, you have higher budget deficit, you have higher public debt. So that sends a negative signal not only to local investors but also to international investors.
The Pakistani rupee traded 1:1 with the Indian rupee at the time of independence. In 1955, the IMF devalued Pakistani rupee to 4.76 to the dollar, again establishing the same par value as India. In 1958 through 69, Pakistan did not devalue its rupee, though the economy suffered severe shock, especially the 1965 war with India and the civil conflict in East Pakistan. Pakistan kept the rupee at 4.70 as per 1 US dollar. In 1969, General Ayub handed over power to General Yahya Khan. At that point, Pakistan rupee stood same at 4.70 per US dollar. In 1971, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto came to power, the rupee skyrocketed from 4.70 to 11 rupees per US dollar due to the 1971 India-Pakistan War. Eventually, after the war in 1973, the Pakistani rupee came back down as 9.90 rupees per US dollar. In the 11 years of General Ziaul Haq in power, the rupee went from 10.84 rupees per US dollar in 1977 to 18.65 rupees per US dollar in 1988.
मिस्टर भुट्टो की हुकूमत ख़त्म हो चुकी है। सारे मुल्क में मार्शल लॉ नाफिज कर दिया गया है। कौमी और सूबाई असम्बलियाँ तोड़ दी गई हैं। सूबाई गवर्नर और वजीर हटा दिए गए हैं।
From 1989 to 1990, when Benazir Bhutto came to the power for the first time, the rupee was trading at 21.90 rupees per US dollar. In 1991, when Nawaz Sharif came to power for the first time, the rupee was at 24.72 per US dollar. In 1993, when Benazir Bhutto came to power for the second time, in her presence, the rupee went from 30 rupees in 1993 to 34 rupees 21 pesos in 1996. In 1997, when Nawaz Sharif came to power for the second time, the Pakistani rupees was at 40 rupees and 7 pesos, equal to $1. In 1999, when General Pervez Musharraf in a bloodless coup came to power, Pakistani rupees was at 50 rupees and 10 pesos. It kept its ascent and ended up at 63 rupees per US dollar in 2008.
I have consulted all my legal advisors and political friends. After the long discussion and after taking advice of those for the nation of now I have decided that I would resign from the post of president and I would be sending my resignation to the Speaker of the Parliament.
2009 to the current year, the Pakistani rupees has gone up from 81 rupees to 83 rupees per US dollar.
Now I know why the whole of America is crazy about you.
That's the $64 billion question. It's quite premature to say right now that how much the rupee will depreciate, but taking into account the past history of rupee against US dollar, I see rupee will touch around 110 or 120 in the next 5 to 6 years time. Right now, the U.S. economy is going through a very challenging time because they are having budget deficit. They are printing money like anything. So, thus they have lower interest rates. So I see the U.S. economy will eventually default in 5 years' time.
What the future holds for Pakistan? Well, to answer that question, it is hard to say as Pakistan is facing one of the biggest law and order situation in the country. Its ongoing war is draining a lot of resources, not only money, but also military personnel and equipment. Because of this ongoing war, there has been a lot of uncertainty and talented people are trying to flee Pakistan as they are uncertain of their jobs or their home. The tourist industry has come to a halt. The severe lack of water, and as the foreign investment is bare to minimum, we can only hope that somehow Pakistan fights all the odds and come back as prosper than ever before.